We're really going to be working on accelerating our learning so that we can help our students, and I want to help you help them. So I hope they will be able to get you some of your questions answered and make sure everybody's aware. So every elementary school in Newton County right now has access to MyOn. And when you have access to MyOn, you're giving your children the opportunity to choose from thousands of books so that they can read and have stories read to them. All of these books are extremely well written and vetted so that you know you're getting scaffolds built in as students are reading. MyOn is always engaging. I don't know if many of you know this, but the very first time a student logs in, the first thing they're going to do is take an interest inventory. And why? Because we want to know what they're interested in, because we know that if we can engage our students in content that they're interested in, that they will read and they will read more. You all also have access to all the literacy tools that are built into each book. Today, we're going to take a look at each of those literacy tools to see how you might better utilize them during distance learning. And of course, all of this helps our students grow. And I will be showing you some data today, but I believe just since school shut down on March 16th, there's been over 25,000 books read in your district, in your elementary schools alone. So quite a bit of reading that's going on. And why is this important? Because we know that students that have over 500 books in their home have an excellent chance of graduating high school and attending college. It propels their learning. And because each of your students has access to MyOn right now in their homes, they have over 6,500 books in their home. We also want to continue thinking about this through the summer, because we know summer slide is a very real thing, and understanding that, especially this year, being out of school since March 16th, we need to continue to push our students to read all summer long. I'm not exactly sure how your district is going to be handling summer and summer education, but as teachers, I'm sure that you really will want your students to continue reading over the summer. And I'm going to give you some ideas as well on how we might be able to take that a step further later on. And of course, the summer reading loss is huge, and that's why we want to always continue to read over the summer. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go into MyOn and just make sure that you guys are aware of some of the features that you have within MyOn. I'm going to log in first as a district administrator. How can I move? I'm sorry, Jennifer, there, never mind, I moved it. And I want you to understand that I'm just going in as a district administrator because I want to be able to show you the books that you have at your fingertips. If I go into my demo account, I have different books. So most of you, in fact, all of you are able to access.
Sarah Lee, your screen is gray.
It's gray.
Mm-hmm.
I bet I know what I need to do. I need to, so I'm sharing, I need to share my web browser.
Okay, so now we see you. Okay, now it's resharing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for telling me that. Again, I've been in Zoom mode all week, so. Most of you, in fact, all of you access MyOn through your Clever dashboard. So when students log in, that's also where they access MyOn. And as you can see, I'll just show by grade, but you can see that the third grade obviously has read quite a bit because they were part of the Read to the Final Four reading challenge. But when you look at this type of amount of reading that's been done in your district, it's insane and crazy to think that this many books are being read by your students. I want to go to the library first. And as a teacher, you'll have the same things across the top, the same tabs but instead of saying my district, it'll say my classroom. And then you all have access to MyOn News, which I'll discuss in a little bit. And the fourth tab is the library. So when you click on the library, there's several different things you can do. You can browse by genre, and there's books about me, animals. Genres is mainly fables and folk tales, fairy tales, hobbies and how-to, language arts. You can see there's lots and lots of different ways of categories. My favorite way to search as a teacher is to click the search button. Now, sometimes when you click the search tab, it looks like this, just a plain purple bar. Well, we all know that there's got to be more to it than that. So if you click over here on a little blue filter, it will open up and allow you to search in several different ways with several different filters. A few of these filters, fiction or nonfiction. So if I want nonfiction books, I can search by Lexile level. So if I'm looking for a nonfiction book for my students who are reading at a 300, you have to kind of squish it, 300 to 600 Lexile level, possibly about weather. I can search for books that will be just right for my students, and there's 51 books about weather. And I think of weather today because the rumbling we had over here in Smyrna was crazy this morning. So I can look at each of these books and see what might be a good book for me to share with my students to support what I'm doing in my classroom. If I don't want it to be those filters, if you're a school that's using AR, and there are a few schools in Newton that do use AR, you could search by ATOS level. If you work with Fountas and Pinnell, you can search by your guided reading level, or you can search by grade level, and even by language. So if you have, if you're an ESL teacher, not necessarily, but we do have Spanish books in here. So if you have students at home that want to read with their families in their native language, that's also a possibility. And there's also, you can search by book type, short, medium, long, and epic. Epic, I think, is really 92 pages or more. So don't get too excited. I chose weather, but you could also choose the War of 1812, which I think is a social studies standard that's being covered about this time right now. I've had lots of people ask about it. And you can find different books that will support what you're doing for social studies. If I wanted to sort and look for shapes, because maybe I'm a kindergarten teacher working on some math content, I can look at shapes. The possibilities are endless as to what type of book you could look for. Many of you, your students are reading independently at home, and you maybe would like ideas on how you can better utilize some of these books to support your classroom. I will tell you that you have a gem of a teacher at Newton County Theme, Ms. Wisnett, that has done a remarkable job in developing lessons based off some of the books here in MyOn. And she simply searched topics that she was working on in her social studies class, and then created PDFs that she could upload into her Google Classroom and share out with her students. If I look at Rebel, A Rebel Among Redcoats is one of the books that she had been sharing. If I look at this book, I can click the blue info tab, and I can see that this book is appropriate for grades 3 through 5. It is a 96-page book. It's about an hour and 34 minutes to read. And it talks about Maggie Tinsdale and how she wants to run her family's plantation. If I have AR at my school, I might want to click the I button, so I can see the AR quiz number and how many AR points it would also go to. Now I'm going to open this book because I'd like to show you a few features. And Jennifer, I may need your help with this piece. If I'm doing this and I have it read, will you be able to hear what is being read on my web browser? We'll see. Okay, I'm going to start.
Hear it. We'll be able to hear it, Sarah Lee.
You will? Okay, thank you. So I'm not going to have it read it a lot, but I want you to see some of the different features that are built into every book in MyOn. There is audio support, and a student can choose whether to have that turned on or off. You as a teacher can also choose to turn it on or off for your students, and I will be able to show you that. But I'll just play a little bit so you can see how it can help and support a student. Okay, I'm not going to read, obviously, the whole page, but you can see that these books are professionally voiced and they model fluency for your students who may be struggling readers. Every student has access to a journal. So if I would like to take notes about this book, and I'm just going to make a sentence, I can take my note and I can even use the citation button so that I know where this came from. So later on, if I'm working on a paper for my teacher, I can go back to my journal and be able to see my notes, because each student has a personalized, differentiated account for them, and they are able to access their journal at any time. Every book, I'm so sorry, also has a dictionary. So if I click single time on a word, I can view this word in my dictionary. It will not read the definition, but it will pronounce the word for a student. If I do not know the word trembled. So all of these features are there and available for every student. And even if you have the audio support turned off for a student, they will always be able to hear the pronunciation, so that if it's a word they don't know, they'll know how to say it. There are also literacy tools built in. Is there a question?
Yes, Sarah Lee, are teachers able to view student journals?
Yes, they are. So a teacher, and I'll go in as a teacher in a little bit and show you, but a teacher can, if you've assigned a book to a student to read, you can click into their copy of the book and see anything they've done and their journals. So in this particular instance, say my teacher has asked me to highlight in blue words that I do not know. I can take my highlighter and choose the blue ink and then click on those words that I had said. Maybe my teacher in yellow wants me to highlight the main idea of a sentence, of a paragraph, I apologize. And so as you can see, I can definitely highlight. Maybe they want me to add a sticky note about something I'm thinking about while I'm reading this. I can make a sticky note for myself. There are also arrow tools. If I was a teacher from a younger classroom, maybe I want you to point to the title of the chapter, or I may ask them to point to the teeth or what content supported something. You get the idea. I just want to show you there's several tools over here. And also for teachers, well, and this is, students can see it as well, but I always find these other pages very helpful. Here I'm going to find out about the author. I can make connections. What is the theme of the story? What details from the story support the theme? How is the story? So these are different ideas. So as a teacher, I may ask some of these questions to my student and have them reply back to me. Now, this is just like any other classroom text. Yes, it's digital in that you can let your students read it from their house while you're at your house. But if you're assigning a book for your students to read, you still need to read the book. We don't provide all the answers, just so you know. There's always a glossary so you understand the different vocabulary words. And so this particular one has straight from history, but sometimes there's a timeline, sometimes there's different facts, lots of different ways and things you can learn about the book. These other pages aren't always the exact same, but there are always other pages. I feel like that's a really important piece, especially when, as a teacher, you're trying to think about different ways you can help your students. So I'm going to exit this book. Now, as a teacher, I'd like to make this clear. As a teacher, you can search by standards. I really want to make it clear that this is not a perfect standard search. I do not want everybody to go, oh, well, I'll just go there. That's going to be the easiest. You still have to go in and say, I'm looking for science. I'll pick 3rd grade, physical science, and search. So here, obtain, evaluate, and communicate information about the ways heat energy is transferred and measured. Well, that is exactly what we're working on. So it has brought up 6 different books. And temperature, heating up, cooling down. This is appropriate for kindergarten to grade 4. Science measurements, how heavy, how long, how hot. Again, K to 4. You can kind of see the Lexile level in the lower and upper grades. If you would like, you can actually click on the book and read a little bit more. And you can even then assign it to a student by making a project. You click on Add to Project, you create a new project name, and you save it. And then later I'm going to show you how you'd be able to assign that back out to your class. Sometimes, like, you wouldn't want to assign all 6 of these because here we have a book, Homes. And I'm not sure, but this explores the science behind homes. It looks at topics such as building materials, electricity, water. And that may not be exactly what I was looking for as far as the heat and heat transferred and measured. So you need to look at each book before deciding which ones you want to assign to your students. Does anybody have any questions about that? You could also add a book to your list. That's at the bottom. And once you have your list, you can then share, and there's several books in this particular list. I could add a bundle though. And then I have a heat bundle that I can share with my class. And all I would do is go find the book that I just added. And I can just drag that into my bundle. And now this bundle can be shared with my students. I'm going to be sending Jennifer several quick reference cards that she can share with you about some of these features I'm showing today. I really feel like I want to make sure I touch on everything so that you guys are completely aware of what capabilities you have as a teacher. I did see that there was one question that popped up that somebody wasn't seeing MyOn in their Clever dashboard. I'm sure that we'll be able to fix that one. I'm sure you'll be able to find it soon enough. Again, this is different ways that you can search for books, and I hope that that will be helpful for you to find things that you're doing in your classroom. Think about when you're searching too, the more specific you are, the harder it gets, like it's kind of Google-esque. So maybe don't make something plural, make it, I would search for cat versus cats. If that makes any sense. Or if you are looking for, now, Civil War is a very popular topic. You can also utilize your parentheses and it makes your search more specific. As you can see, you really have a lot of options for the type of book. When you search just Civil War, there's so many different Civil Wars that you may get something different. So that's why I can encourage you to definitely quote it to get a more refined search. I also want to show you that you have access to MyOn News. And MyOn News is 5 articles a day, Monday through Friday, at 3 different Lexile levels. All the articles are vetted by a child psychologist and appropriate for your students. Now, the cool thing is, like I said, they're created in 3 different Lexile levels. So what that really means for you is that your students all have individual Lexiles in their account. So it's given, the article is given to them in the Lexile that's best for them. And at the bottom of the page is a teacher guide for each day will come up for each of the articles. So let's look at state of the air for 2020, which I saw a really great news article on this. Nothing else has come out from this crazy coronavirus. Our Earth is able to breathe a little better right now because we're not polluting it as much. These articles are great because they come in 3 different languages: Spanish, English, and French. And they can be read to the student if the student clicks on the speaker at the top, or else the student can read it to themselves. The articles also come in 3 different fonts, sizes: small, medium, and large. For our students who may be reading this on a smaller device, it's always helpful. I don't know, I have 2 high school kids. My son prefers to read things on his phone, and I don't know why, but that's how they act. And each of the articles comes with a map. It's been doing this to me lately on these. Comes with a map. And it shows where the article is taking place, so you can kind of see where you are versus where the article took place. And if the article takes place in a foreign country, it'll show you how they say "huh." And there's usually a fun fact. There's always a video to support the different articles, and there's always a slideshow as well. But what's really neat is at the end of the article, the students are able to rate and review it. I'm in as a teacher right now, so I cannot. But then they're directed to different books in MyOn that also pertain to the article they just read, so that they can continue to learn more. And in fact, these are really great books that are in MyOn that really cover kind of what we're studying and living through right now with coronavirus. And then there are 3 comprehension questions as well. Well, today there's 4, but usually there's 3. So these articles are all available to your students every day and to you. You can search these articles. They're all archived. You can even add them to an existing project. So I have the heat project. If I wanted, I could add this to this state of the air to that heat project. I'm going to delete the project at the end, but so I have added that article along with the heat book to my students that I can assign out for them to read. So I just want you to see that you can assign these to your students as well. Are there any questions about any of this right now? Okay, just want to make sure. So I've been in your district so you can see your books, but I want to log in as a teacher so you can see a little bit about how it's going to look for you. So I'm going to go into my demo account again, you have access to 6,558 books. I have access to a few more. So I just don't want you to, I like to show books before I go to this mode. So now I'm in as a teacher. And when you log in as a teacher, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see your roster. You're going to see each of your students. If you've broken your students into groups, you'll see them over here on the left-hand side of the page. I will be sending you quick reference cards so that you know how to break them into groups. Breaking them into groups is very helpful when you're assigning projects or books or running reports based on different groups of students in your classroom. But on your home page, you can quickly do a 2-minute check to see how many books have been finished by your students, how many pages have been read, how much time has been spent reading, type of content they're reading, and at the Lexile level. So here, I'm looking at books finished this week from last week, but I could look at this entire school year if I wanted. And I can even have it sorted over here, high to low, so that I can see each student. I can even go into my student homepage just to take a quick peek as to what my students have been reading. I can see my student took a benchmark and has made a 435 Lexile. And my student took one quiz, Red, White, and Blue, and Katie Wu, and she scored a 20% on it. I would be asking her to read that book again. This is a demo student, and I probably click through the questions myself. So my homepage can be very helpful for me just to kind of take a quick peek at my students. Nobody has read this week in my pretend demo classroom. If I move to my classroom tab, this is where I can see all my students. I have a lot of students, so it takes a second. But I can also, this is where I can add groups. And if I want to create a group, I click add group. I can call them the Dallas, because tonight's the draft. I'm a Cowboys fan. And I click save. Now I have this group here, but I don't have any students in it yet. I have to assign those students. And I can type by name or by student ID or however you have them stored. I know I have mine in here. And maybe I want to add another student. So I can add my students into my classroom. Now, once I have these students in groups, what I told you earlier, you can do. Perhaps I want my Dallas Cowboys group to have no audio support because they're very strong readers and I don't want them to have access. I can select their names and I can say audio setting. And now I can turn it to where it's always on, it's always off, or it's only on the weekends. And you might say, well, why would I want it on the weekends and off during the week? Perhaps during the week, I'm assigning them books that I need them to be reading and I need them to do it without the audio support. But on the weekends, I want them to be able to enjoy their books and engage in whatever type of content that they engage with. So this may be a reason why I have it on the weekends and off during the week. But it's very easy to then control and turn it back on, turn it off, whatever you want. So that's a little bit about groups. There's another tab here called reviews. Students, when they finish a book, are given the option to rate and review the book. And if you want, you can go through and approve the reviews that they've made. For instance, this child read Thomas Jefferson, A Great American, and her review was, "This was a great book and it taught me more about Thomas Jefferson." So I approved that review. If someone were to go and read Thomas Jefferson, A Great American, they would be able to see that review. Here at the top, you also have access to projects. Now, as a teacher, I've made several projects. Some are inactive, in other words, not assigned to anyone, and some have been assigned to my students. If I would like to assign a book specifically to another student, I can, I don't want to assign this to her because I'll assign Miss, not just long ago. I can pick a grade or a group to assign it to. And I'm going to assign this to my Dallas Cowboys. Now, this is a project I created. So let's just take a peek at this project. I'm not going to go deep into how to create all these projects, but I will give you an overview. And then I can send the quick reference cards. And if any of you want to create projects and you're having problems, I can meet with you. So I can clearly see, Miss, not long ago, here's the description that's not shown to students. Read closely, writing to learn. Students study the purposes and elements of mythology. Students read Rick Riordan's The Lightning Thief with a focus on the archetypal hero's journey and close reading of many mythical allusions. So you can see that this is going to be a nice one, and it's going to be a little bit harder for a 6th grade student, but if you know, you may have 5th grade students that you're looking to do this with. Now, the very first task I have in this particular project is a graphic organizer. Using the KWL graphic organizer, complete what you already know about myths and what you want to know about myths. At the end of this project, you will complete the what you have learned section. And then I have a reading task. They are going to be able to use these particular books as they go through this assignment. Now, this is an extremely long project, but I want you to see that teachers that have gone to great lengths to create certain projects for their students, and they're able to assign them, and the students can work on them in the platform of MyOn. I'll log in as a student in a minute and show you a bit what it looks like from the student's point of view. You could also create a new project. As I showed you earlier, it's easy to create a project from the library, and then you can also create one on your own and find books this way as well. I will give you some tips on that with the quick reference cards. I want you to also know you can search for projects from the cloud. I am in my cloud. I click the projects tab. To the right is a cloud button. And now I can search for projects. Now, if I'm a 3rd grade teacher, I may search for projects in the cloud for grades 3 through 4, because sometimes teachers in different state standards come at different places. But if I would like to also find a project that has reading and writing and a graphic organizer, and then I want to search, I don't know if there will be one, but I will say weather. I've asked for quite a bit there. 39 different projects have come up that have the weather. Let's see, wild weather. Students will read texts about different extreme weather. They will choose 2 different types and compare and contrast them. Write 1 paragraph about what they found most interesting. Well, that looks very interesting to me. And I'm going to look and see, here are the books that they have selected. Here's KWL. This is a graphic organizer for them. And here's the paragraph. Write 6 complete sentences about what you learned from investigating different weather. Make sure to use correct punctuation and spelling. I could copy that to my project if I wanted to assign that out. And then I didn't have to create anything. Maybe I want to see this one. This was created by Mary Sawyer in East Hampton School District. Hers is a little bit more thorough. Cause and effect, chronological, main idea. She used several different, and she wanted you to take notes. So as you can see, there's different ways you can use this search capability to find projects that fellow teachers across the United States have created. The next tab is called reports. So the core report is the one that most of us will use just to get an idea. You can pull it by your students or students in a group or your roster. And if I want to select and run this report to see how much my students have read, I can run that report. Now you notice up here, you can select the date range. My date range is very wide right now because these are demo students and I wanted to be able to pull some information. You may just want to see what your students have read since March 16th when they left your building and your classrooms. I just saw a question about projects being saved. They are saved in your teacher category, and then you assign them to this year's class, but then next year when you get a new group of kids, you can reassign it to the next group of kids. You don't have to recreate them every year. Since March, my students have opened one book, have not completed any books. But as you can see, this information could be quite helpful if you were really trying to see how many books your kids had read and how much time they'd spent reading. The core report is very important. Quizzes is a great one because it lets you know if they're understanding. At the end of each book, they can read the book, rate and review the book, and then they can take a 5-question quiz. And those quizzes will show comprehension, inference skills, main idea skills. I'm just going to run it so that you can kind of see what types of questions. Main idea, vocabulary, supporting detail, inference, interpretation. So this will give you a good idea. If you have a student who's taken 20 quizzes and makes high scores on everything but vocabulary, he or she needs some additional work on that, and then you can work with them to help them become better with their vocabulary. And then there are 2 other ones, on target Lexile reading. And this allows you to see if your students are reading on target, below, or above. So when I look at these 2 students, I can see that Haley read 40 minutes, and 20 of those minutes were read below Lexile. 4 minutes were read at Lexile, and 15 were read above. And if I look at Garrett, 69 minutes were read below Lexile, and only 3 at, and basically none above. So it's important to kind of take a peek at your students and help them remember that if they're reading at or above their Lexile, that's going to help them grow as readers. So I hope that showing you some of these reports gives you an idea of things that you can be looking for with your students. If you look at news reading, you can see who's reading news articles and who is not. And you can also see what articles are being read. So Haley's read 6 articles and spent 28 minutes. And Garrett has read 6 and spent 3 minutes. So Garrett's probably not spending as much time reading his articles as Haley is. But I do like to look at what articles are being read. So when you look at news content, if I ask everyone to read a particular article, I can run that report. And nobody has read any articles in my demo class since April 4th. So there you go. None of my demo children, sorry. I think now would be a good time. If there's questions you could ask, I would love to answer them. And I'm going to be switching to a student so that you can kind of see what it looks like from a student point of view. Are there any questions right now? Okay, go ahead.
Somebody wants to know if quizzes are read to students.
The quizzes are not read to students. The quizzes are at the end of the book and they are not read to students. They don't really have an impact on the Lexile level. So if a parent wanted to read the quiz to a student, that would be fine. They more are based, like I said, on inference and vocabulary main ideas. When you log in as a student, you are taken to your homepage and you can see how much time you've spent reading, how many books you finished, and how many pages you've read this week, or you could look at it for the month. How much time you spent reading, how many books you finished, how many pages you've read. This is the last book the student accessed. And I can see here are some different assignments my teacher has given me. And the miss not just long ago was a project we were looking at as a teacher a minute ago. And I can see using a KWL graphic organizer, complete what you already know about Miss and what you want to know about Miss. So I can start that graphic organizer. And my topic is myths. And what do I know? That's what I think I know. I know myths were written long ago. So I'm going to save that. If I wanted to access my journal, I could, if I had taken notes. See, it comes up right here. I haven't taken any notes about myths, so I don't have anything to access. But I can save that and then come back to it and turn it in. I have my reading list. Here's the words I need to know. Write a definition for each of the following words using clues from the text or the MyOn dictionary. Record the definitions in your journal. Anthropomorphism, archetype, mythology, mortal, oracle, appease. So students could actually use the dictionary and look each of these up and write them in their journal. So this student had this project assigned and she can continue to work on it till she's completed it. A student can also go to the library and search for books. Their search is different, although they still have a filter, which is, and they could have to open it. Their search is different because right now it says I'm in grade 3, so I can search for grade 3 books, but I can't scroll and search for a larger selection. So if I want to find books that are appropriate for grade 3, I just click search. And here comes some of the books based on what I've been reading lately. I wanted fiction books. I can search. And here comes appropriate fiction books for a 3rd grade person. So you can see how the different filters can make it go smaller and smaller. And now I want fiction 3rd grade books at a 400 Lexile level, and it gets even smaller and lower. And Jimmy Sniffles is a really fun one. If you guys have ever, Jimmy Sniffles is a great little character. So as a student, I can go in and search for different books as well. And here's my access to the news article. A little something I'm going to tell you. Let's look over here. You see my MyOn Lexile level is 435. When I go to the news article, and I'll go to a different one now. If, as a teacher, I scroll to the bottom, I can see that this was updated at 5:01 p.m. 5:01 would be the easiest version of the news article. 5:02 would be a higher Lexile version of the article, and 5:03 is the highest Lexile level of the article. And again, as a student, I can just go to my projects tab and look at all the different ones that have been assigned to me and see which ones I've started and which ones I still need to work on. So you think what else? Horton. Okay, I'm going to go into this book because I forgot to show you as a teacher how you can see some of what the students do. I'm going to use my tools, and I'm going to use my highlighter, and I'm going to, sorry, why is my highlighter not working in this particular book? Because this is a third-party publisher book. I'm going to color on this page so that we all know that on page 2, I colored on it. And when I log out and I go back in as a teacher, I'm just going to search for that book, typing Horton. Here's Horton Half-Pot, and I'm going to click read. I'm going to put this guy down. And I'm going to read as a student. So down, I'm going to fix, I can see here, Haley has been reading and used the tools. You see that? So if I click Haley's copy and I start the book, I can see what Haley did. And these little tools on the side will give you an indicator that somebody has been using the literacy tools. Now, so I forgot that I was going to show you that. Is there anything specific, any question specific that I can answer? I see some questions popping up, and I don't know if you're answering them in the background.
There's one I'm not sure about the answer. Someone asked if a teacher can use a tool for a student, like mark the text for the student, maybe some things like add notes.
That's a great question. Let's go back into Horton there. And I'm going to click read. I'm going to read as a student. I'm going to read as Haley. So I'm going to continue this book. Now I'm in Haley's copy, and if I click the tools, I can make a sticky note and say, Haley, why did you color on this page? And I can leave that sticky note there. And now when Haley logs in the next time, she's going to see that her teacher left that sticky note for her. If I go into this Horton, now I'm in as Haley. I continue the book. Oh, look what Miss Parker said to me. So then Haley could take her tools and she could erase or get rid of the paintbrush, and it would go away. Other questions?
We have a teacher who wants to know if there are any additional accessibility features besides the reader for self-contained students.
So the only thing I can really think of is if you double click on a page, you can increase the size so that if you have a problem, you could make it even bigger so that you can very well see the on the page. This is extremely helpful in some of our books. Graphic novels, especially, tend to have smaller font. And so I frequently have to zoom in on them just so I can see the font better. So if I double click on this, then I can see it better. So the audio support and the double clicking on the page to make it bigger for vision are two of the accommodations that I think of right off the bat. Other than that, a student also in this dictionary, they don't necessarily have to single click on a word. If they typed in the word here, they could also have that word looked up for them. Oh, settings. You can have the audio speed up if you're listening to the book, or if you're a slow reader, you can slow it all the way down. That is one more accommodation feature. So I think after this, I will be sharing some quick reference cards to Jennifer on how to create groups from your rosters, additional information on creating projects, some report information, and some support information if you do have AR books or AR also in your building, so you can show how to go back and forth. Any other questions? And if you want additional help, Jennifer, feel free to share my information. I'm happy to work with people on projects. It's easy, but it's harder, it's more steps. And so I'm not going to create these projects, but those of you that want to, feel free. I'll be happy to help you.
Thank you, Sarah Lee.
Yeah, I forgot. I have one other thing I wanted to show you.
Okay.
Share content. I want to share this. And the last screen. I'm also going to be sending a link to our summer reading toolkit so that you can read through it and look at different activities. If you want to have a contest at your school, if you want to just support your parents, there's all sorts of different information that I'm going to be sharing to Jennifer that she can share out to you. It's a link. It's really big to share as just an attachment. So I'll be sharing that to you guys. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope that all of you have learned something from today. And if you need anything, I'm always here for you.
Thank you so much, Sarah Lee, and thank you everyone for joining us. Of course, this session has been recorded and we'll be able to share it with you so that you'll be able to see it again if you're trying to build something. If you need support, we're going to send out some documents for you so that you'll be able to use MyOn, and we'll share Ms. Parker's information with you so you can reach out to her. Have a very lovely day. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.